So let's talk about Neon White. Neon White is an upcoming movement shooter developed by a company named Angel Matrix, who have a badass name, but I can't find any information on them. Can't even actually find a logo to pop on screen on Google Images. The logo does exist, it's at the beginning when I boot up the demo, but I can't find it on Google. The game is also being published by Annapurna Interactive, who not only could I actually find the logo to pop on screen, but are also a company who I can find information on. Annapurna have published a lot of games for various developers, including Sayonara Wild Hearts, Last Stop, Solar Ash, Donut County, Kentucky Route Zero, and plenty more over the years. This video is admittedly not going to be super long, given I'm reviewing a demo for the game and not the full game itself. And normally I try to avoid doing that sort of thing, and only review finished games after they've been released. But I felt a strong urge to cover this game's demo, so I can maybe spotlight the title a bit more. Plus, I got full permission from the game's official Twitter to make this video, so why not? The demo released on February 21st, exclusive to Steam, although the final game will release on both Steam and the Nintendo Switch, so it isn't a PC exclusive. Neon White follows the titular Neon White as he awakes in heaven with no memories. Amnesia for our protagonist is a solid way to get the ball rolling and sets up some mystery anyway, so I'm cool with that. White is a sinner so fucking bad, like fucking deplorable apparently, that God decided,
hey, you know fucking what? Instead of just damning you all to watching every single episode of The Simpsons in order, in hell forever, I'll just make you guys kill the demons who's invaded heaven for me. Deal?
And that's how neons like White are created. There are other neons, but the main ones shown in the demo besides White are yellow, violet, and red. There's also a guy named Green, and since he's on the banner I assume he's going to be majorly important, but he barely speaks in this demo, and only really gets to be a foreboding presence in one cutscene. Violet's fucking adorable, red's fucking hot, and yellow's just fucking neat. White's my favorite because he's my kind of man, i.e. an edgy trash man voiced by Steve Bloom, which makes him really hot to me. I can't find a comprehensive voice cast list for this game, but I can find some stuff online about individual characters. I don't need to look it up to know that White is voiced by Steve Bloom, because I know Badman from Travis Strikes Again when I hear him. Other actors that I can immediately recognize are Sungwon Cho, who plays Mikey, and I'm pretty sure Raz is played by Zeno Robinson. Despite not knowing all the actors off the top of my head and only being able to pick out a choice few of them, I think the acting in this game is pretty good. As for the writing, I'll get back to that later. Now the Neons are competing in a competition called the 10 Days of Judgment, which will end with the top-ranking Neon having all of their sins just forgiven by God, and they're given an all-expense-paid trip to heaven like they're some absolute saint or something. Stakes are high, obviously, and each of the Neons are assigned a spirit card that take the form of a weapon that best fit them based on their past lives, which lands our boy White with a katana. And thankfully, it won't be the only weapon he gets in this journey. The first level is all about teaching movement, but quickly as the levels progress, you'll be running and gunning like a proper movement shooter, picking up various weapons in the form of spirit cards that will aid you in your quest to defeat the shadowy armies of hell and claim the rightfully earned place in heaven that you'll fight long and hard for. If you heard me mention the spirit cards and went, is this like Chain of Memories? Then 1, I'm really glad I've cultivated an audience that hears cards and immediately thinks of that game before anything else. And 2, no, Neon White isn't like Chain of Memories mechanically. The cards work basically like any other weapon in a shooter, but are just presented as cards as opposed to literal weapons, because the weapons aren't just combat tools. They're also puzzle-solving tools and platforming tools, so they're basically items. Besides your sword, you also have a pistol, assault rifle, SMG, crossbow, and bazooka, with each having their own unique secondary function, and those secondary functions aren't just for combat, but also the previously mentioned puzzle-solving and platforming. The pistol gives White a double jump. The assault rifle launches purple bombs that make for great AoE attacks but are also good for grenade jumps like your Demo Man in TF2. The bazooka has a grappling hook that can zip you across either by using set grapple points or via enemies. You can also fire the rocket under your feet to rocket jump like you're playing Soldier in TF2, but that's part of the primary firing mode and not the secondary mode. The SMG gives you a ground pound, which is great for an AoE attack, and also lets you drop a lot faster than if you just naturally fell, which is crucial given part of a level's final score is dependent on how fast you beat it. That's actually the most important factor. I think it's the only factor, actually. In the almost 4 hours I've put into this demo, I do not think the levels actually grade you on how much damage you've taken. I think it's solely based on how quickly you get to the end of the level. Levels themselves are fairly short, and a collection of levels make up one mission. The challenge comes from beating the levels fast and efficiently enough to gain the highest ranks. You can't beat a level unless you've defeated every demon and then make it to the end. You can't just run past every enemy and get to the goal, otherwise it won't count. In my playthrough, the ranks I got were bronze at the lowest, silver as the least embarrassing, gold as really good, and then ace rank is the best rank. Each rank gives you different amounts of insight, and insight is a point system that gives you several bonuses based on how much you get, such as unlocking the hidden gifts in each level that you can then go back to those levels and replay them to collect them. You can also unlock other stuff like the global leaderboard for a specific level when you get enough insight, as well as level hints that give you some traversal tips in 4 parts. And before you think you can coast your way through the game with just getting bronzes like a dweeb, sorry but no. Because another thing Insight gives you is points towards increasing your Neon rank, and you need to be a certain rank to progress to the next set of levels, so nah, if you're not a good enough rank, then you're gonna be replaying the previous missions to get better scores like a good sinner. And I guess theoretically you could just keep farming and grinding the bronzes over and over again for the little bit of insight they give you every time you complete the level, but I feel like at that point, the game would become an annoying slog. So the best way to have fun with the game is to actually just learn the levels and get better scores and get better ranks. The game's general cycle is based on short levels that the game will want you to replay over and over again until you get the highest ranks possible, and faster times. Even once you get an ace rank, the game will still encourage you to get faster times, because by that point you will have unlocked the global leaderboard for that specific level, and you can see how you rank amongst all the other players. The most fun you can have when playing Neon White is by replaying the levels over and over again. Redoing each level, again and again, getting slightly better with each and every reset is such an exciting experience. And it reminds me a lot of other games like Katana Zero or Hotline Miami. The game does support both controllers and the keyboard and mouse setup. I did basically my entire playthrough of the demo with the keyboard and mouse. I did try the controller for a little bit, since I do have an Xbox One controller that plugs into my PC, and I like to use it for some of the games I have on my computer. But for FPS games, I tend to stick with the keyboard and mouse setup, as it just feels more comfortable and it's just better for the gameplay style overall. You've probably noticed in some of my gameplay that there are weird periods where I just stop moving and seem to be stuck for a bit. At first, I thought this was just a glitch. And I'm mentioning it here because technically it still is a glitch, but I know the reason now. The reason was because I still had my controller plugged in, and what was happening was that the game would occasionally freak out and shift the control from my keyboard to my controller. Once I unplugged the controller, we were Gucci, so it's not a big deal. You just need to remember to not have your controller plugged in if you decide to play with the keyboard and mouse. It's still worth mentioning because if the people at Angel Matrix aren't aware of this and they want to fix it, well then here's the information. That is, if they're even watching this. Overall, I think the game plays fantastic. This is without a doubt probably the best part of the game. Once I got into the groove of its blend of fast-paced platforming, movement, and combat, I instantly became addicted to it and its levels. By the end of the demo, I was just hungry for more, which is why I put so many hours into this demo alone. Replaying levels, doing everything I can to beat all my previous times, getting better and better, because it's just so much fun. Again, it reminds me of the kind of feelings I have playing other games like Katana Zero, Hotline Miami, and Hades. Games that, yeah, are difficult and will ask you to replay several sections over and over again, admittedly with different contexts, but you'll always feel like you're getting better as you progress. I felt super cool whenever I got the hang of a level, just blasting through at quick speeds and utilizing all the weapon cards in quick succession to defeat my foes and make it to the goal faster and faster for better ranks and more insight. It's like a combination of the rush that comes from playing the combat of something like Devil May Cry, and the speed of blasting through a level in a Sonic game, with all the finesse and skill that it takes to accomplish each level in Neon White. Another thing worth noting is stuff that I wasn't expecting. Admittedly, at first, I kind of assumed that the water was an obstacle that I needed to jump over, but then quickly I would find out that the water is actually something you're encouraged to touch, because it's essentially just faster ground in this game. When you run on water, you're actually dashing across the water, and you run faster than if you're on solid ground. It kind of reminded me of Sonic running on water in Sonic Unleashed, weirdly enough. The only issue I came into contact with the gameplay that wasn't like a glitch, but was more of just a thing, I mean, I guess you could consider it a glitch, but that's up to you. There's this one level in the demo near the end where you get the bazooka, and there's this part where you're supposed to be using the bazooka's grapple to scale up a building through various windows. And my footage is probably showing this, but I accidentally got caught on some terrain which killed my momentum and required me to press F to restart the run. I really like that the F button is there for an instant restart, so I don't have to constantly pause and press restart level. Also, I gotta wonder, is the F the restart button because of the press F to pay respects meme? Normally I wouldn't ask that, but considering how this game is written, again, I'll get to it, it's a legitimate question. That's the only major gameplay issues I ran into. I also wish I didn't have to click or hit a button to make text boxes progress. I should explain that. I don't mind it being there at all. I think it's a solid way to present, and if someone wants to like go at their own pace with the cutscenes, it's great. But I wish there was an option to let the cutscenes auto-progress themselves, similar to like Fire Emblem Three Houses. I had to replay the first set of levels again on a new save file so that I could capture footage of cutscenes, but because of this, it meant I had to click through all the dialogue myself so that the game wasn't stuck and I wasn't just recording hours of a still screen. And granted, you can fast forward cutscenes, but that's not helpful in this case because it mutes all of the audio and just speeds through all the visuals, like the fast forward mechanic in Persona 5. Also, like Persona 5, you can't really skip these cutscenes outright, or at least I didn't figure out how to do it in the demo. Maybe I missed something. Besides the point. Speaking of presentation, I really dig this game's art style and aesthetic, like so fucking much. I'm not religious, not by a long shot, but I have an interest in religious text, and thus I find this game's choice to focus on the heaven side of Christianity and putting that at the forefront of its presentation just enjoyable. I like it. I've always felt like heaven is kind of slept on in terms of usage in media. Most media focuses on hell and demons because they're just quote-unquote inherently cooler. The only time heaven gets brought up in most media is it's either a hypothetical paradise / end goal in Christian films, or it's used as the bad guy in stuff that tries to be subversive and daring. But given the lore that the Bible presents about angels and heaven, I feel like there's a lot of potential to utilize those concepts in creative and cool ways. And I just wish I could see that more. Neon White gives me that, and I like that. I like it a lot. Another thing about the aesthetic is that it's very Bleach adjacent to me. And as a major fan of Bleach, I'm okay with that. I'm actually really cool with it. It doesn't feel like a direct copy of Bleach, but like something that gives me similar vibes. It gives the same energy. I love the various masks that the Neons wear and how they're all uniquely designed. I like how they're primarily dressed in white or black, with the only other color on them being their namesakes. I dig how occasionally cutscenes will show the characters' faces under the masks, and I just really dig this game's whole anime-aspired look, and having it paired with how angelic and just generally scenic the environments look just makes the game work really well for me. It hits all the right notes for me. I like how the early levels, which is what most of the demo is comprised of, have blue skies and the bright sun, reminiscent of something like the final world in Kingdom Hearts 3, which I assume was designed to also invoke heavenly imagery. But a few levels near the end of the demo are more sunset-like, which imply that in the final game, as we progress through the different levels of heaven, we'll see different types of environments and settings. The music in the levels is good too. It's got this electronica, surreal vibe to it that I can't really explain, but it reminds me a lot of the same headspace that Megami Tensei music gives me. Hell, it reminds me of the headspace some Devilman Crybaby music gives me. I can't exactly put into words what I mean, but I fuck with it hard. You've been hearing the music the whole time because it's been in the background. This is only songs that were ripped from the demo and then put on YouTube, and I look forward to the whole OST dropping when the full game does. I also like what the world building of the demo gives. Really leaves me wanting to learn more about this world and the characters we've met in this demo. I like how it confirms that angels appear to the Neons as different things so they can properly perceive and handle them. Given angels normally look like this, it makes sense. It's a nice little lore touch that's mentioned in a cutscene. We see them as cartoon cats because that's what White sees them as, but... okay. I gotta talk about the writing. I imagine this part of the game will not be for everyone. I just know it will turn off some people. Especially since going to Backlogged, I was able to immediately see some reviews on the site where people were likening this writing to something like Borderlands. And that's a fair take. I disagree with it, but I'm not going to fault anyone for coming to that conclusion. The neons, mostly yellow and violet, speak... Fuck, how do I word this? They speak like me, like when I'm talking casually. Like Violet says words like simp, Yellow references stuff like John Cena and Sasuke, White at one point refers to his friends as mutuals. I think Red and Green are the only neons to never use any form of quote-unquote modern slang. And again, Green doesn't talk. And if he does, I don't remember him saying a single word, so I don't think he counts in this conversation anyway. And personally, I don't really mind this. It's only the neons who speak like this, and they were living humans before getting game ended, so to me, it feels only natural that they talk like this. And to go back on the Borderlands thing, it doesn't feel the same to me as what Borderlands has a problem with doing, because in Borderlands, almost every single character is funny or quirky and talks sort of like that, with that meme energy that people like to meme on when it comes to that series. Like, there are characters in Neon White that speak more professionally. Like, the Believers, who speak like priests. And the Angels, they're still exaggerated cartoon characters. Gabby's a sassy secretary, Mikey's like a tough mob boss kind of guy. But like, they don't talk in the same quote-unquote meme way that Yellow and Violet and even occasionally White have a tendency to do. I know I keep roping White into this, it's only because he has his moments, but for almost the entire demo, he sort of just speaks like a dude voiced by Steve Bloom. And since he isn't anywhere near as young as Violet or even Yellow, it makes sense that he's less quirky in how he talks. Again, I know and understand that this kind of thing won't appeal to everyone, and I'm pretty sure it's going to turn some people off from playing the game as a whole. Sometimes things like this do turn people off, and that's fair, that's valid. I'm not going to fault anyone for deciding not to play the game because of the writing. While I personally don't have a problem with it, I can see why others would. Neon White is that type of game. It's that type of game where it wears its heart right on its sleeve, right alongside its influences and its inspirations. And I love that. But unfortunately, a side effect of doing that is that the flavor of game you create will not appeal to everyone, and it will actually turn some people off. And personally, I think that's fine. Like, it's not going to appeal to everyone, but it will appeal to people, and it will resonate with certain people. Another thing about the demo is that it shows a hub, and it's not an overworld you can freely explore in 3D. It's more of a hub map from something like Persona 3 Portable, as it takes a visual novel style of presentation. Having you hanging out at certain places in between missions, just chillaxing with your friends, all cool. And those hidden gifts that you can find in levels that I briefly mentioned earlier, you find them so that you can then give them to certain people and increase your stats with them and get better relationships that then give you benefits. In the demo, you give those to Red, Yellow, Violet, Raz, and Mikey. I'm not sure if there's any for Gabby. I haven't collected all the gifts in the demo, but I've collected quite a few. And the thing is, when you give these gifts, they'll give you insight to those socials. And when you give enough insight to those socials, you unlock another part of that tree. This can be stuff like side quests or additional dialogue. The additional dialogue is basically just quirky little interactions between White and whatever character you're talking to. Gives you a little bit more of an understanding of that character and shows a bit of that relationship. From learning stuff like what Violet finds cute to trying to learn more about Red and White's past pre-death. All kinds of stuff is exposed to you. And yes, this means the game has some social sim aspects. And I know that for some people, that's another turnoff. And then for other people, that makes them want to play the game. That's why I'm mentioning it. I'm more interested in learning about this world, its characters, and who White was before his death, who all of these people were before the neon stuff began. It's an addictive and fast-paced FPS that's also an addictive and fast-paced puzzle platformer that encourages replays in order to get better times, to become better accustomed with the gameplay and the physics, in order to become the best Neon White player you possibly can, all wrapped in an aesthetically pleasing package that has a style that I really like. It's a very aesthetically pleasing game. Definitely one of my favorite visual styles I've ever seen for a game, at least in terms of art style. Right up there with The World Ends With You and Mad World. I'm 100% excited for the full game when it releases. I'm pretty sure by the time this video goes up, the demo will be over and no longer available to download on Steam. However, I will still be linking the game's actual Steam page in the description so you guys can go and wishlist it yourselves if this video has interested you. I know this video is really short and it's not my usual kind of thing, but I wanted to highlight an upcoming game that I'm actually really excited about. and I'm not seeing a lot of people talk about it. Hell, when I was playing the demo, I actually got a few DMs on Discord of people asking me what Neon White even was, since I have my Discord connected to my Steam and it shows what games I'm playing. Neon White also has an official Discord server, which you can find via the link to their Twitter account, which I've also linked in the description. In the end, I really enjoyed my time with the Neo White demo. I haven't been this addicted to any form of FPS game since 2016 gave me Doom 2016. And playing this game, it reminded me a lot of games I already liked playing, like Katana Zero and Hotline Miami. And I feel like if you enjoy those games for the gameplay stuff, then you'll probably really enjoy this game. I should mention that the writing isn't anywhere close to either of those games, at least I don't think they are. I'm not saying equality, I'm not saying one's better than the other or anything. I'm just saying they have very different styles of writing. But they all kind of scratch the same gameplay itch for me, and that's why I keep bringing them up. I personally can't wait for Neon White to release, and at this particular moment as I'm recording this, it's probably my most hyped game of 2022. And that's all because I played this demo. I'm Dove, and I'll see you later.